Hi, welcome back to Let's Deconstruct a Story. I'm Kelly Forden, and I am excited about this interview with George Singleton. Let's Deconstruct a Story is about breaking down the writing process and how authors eventually end up with a final work, and all the things that push them in their creative process. We talk about some great concepts and ideas here. I am glad you are listening in. It's October 1st. I'm Kelly Forden. I'm talking to George Singleton, and we are talking about his story, I'm Down Here on the Floor, because I was just interviewing Jason Ockert, and his story's in there too. And Dan Wickett of Dzank had recommended both of you for the podcast. And I was like, well, this is so convenient that this is available online. But you've written so many stories that you had to go back and reread it. Like you barely remembered writing it, probably.
Yeah, I did not remember this. I don't want to be coy, but I finish a story and it's gone. I forget it.
How many do you write in a year?
In the old days, probably 40 or 50.
Wow.
But that was the old days. And now that I'm older, probably 25, I'd say.
Well, what, since you did reread it, what was the impetus for this story? Do you remember what sparked for you or no?
I don't remember any of that, but except I went by this place in a town called Whitmire, South Carolina. It's maybe about 30 miles from where I live. And it was a bottle museum.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in there, of course. I went, what the hell? Bottle museum? That's pretty cool. And the guy was weird. And, I looked at these bottles, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Sprite, all these old bottles. And then I started thinking about Tobacciana. I just started making up stuff. And I like writing stories about, kind of old museum kind of places. So that started there. Mm-hmm. Now, also, my hips have been hurting a little bit. So I've been on the floor going, oh, man, how do I get my hip to feel better? So that all started with, with this story, the woman coming in and saying, hey, I'm a PT person, I'll help you out.
Yeah.
And, mostly, my stories start off with, this story's first sentence starts off, the physical therapist hovered, performing a series of warm-up exercises that involved stretching her deltoids, triceps, pectorals, and lower back. Me, I lay on the floor hoping that my left hip didn't break again. I tried to concentrate. So that's how that story started. And normally, in my weird head, I have a voice go, ooh, here's a little voice gonna come up. And I hear something, and then I write it down and then see where that goes.
So this guy, okay, so in your mind, it was hard to get a handle on what was happening because he's such an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, in your mind, how would you describe him?
Yeah, real unreliable narrator. All of my stories, I think, are unreliable narrators. Guy going, oh, do-de-do, here I am. Who knows where that went.
Right. He's young. So first you see this guy on the floor and you think, okay, well, his hip's bothering him. He's got to be old. But then he's young. Or, she's only a couple years younger than him, I think. Or he thinks around the same age.
Yeah.
And then he's been hit by this girl who's texting. So how did that come to you? Do you remember how that?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Probably, I was driving up I-40 up toward your neck of the woods. And I was just driving, having a good old time. Can you all see I'm driving.
Well, we'll be on there. They won't see you. But
I looked in my rearview mirror and I went, God, somebody's behind me driving nuts. Left and right, bam, hit me.
Oh my God.
about 30 miles outside of Nashville. I had to go to Nashville for this thing about a year and a half ago. And I went, God almighty, that woman hit me. And then she came up beside me and I could see her mouth go, I'm sorry. And I went, blankety, blankety, blank, 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 blank. So I pulled off. Everybody pulled off. Everybody backed up. And I got off on the side of the road and she pulled up in front of me. And she said, I'm sorry I hit you. I didn't see you. And I went, what the hell, lady? You were driving crazy. I watched you. And then she said, my son just died. I'm really sorry about that, but maybe you should get off the road. And then she said, I don't think your car is messed up. I have this old Jeep, right? And I don't think your car is messed up. And I went around and looked at the back of it. And she was in a gold Mazda. And she hit me. And so I had this big gold thing on the back of my Jeep. And I went, yeah, you're right. Not much. And while we were talking, the front right quarter panel of her car fell off.
Oh, my God.
And I went, ha, ha, ha.
Right. I think you did it. Yeah.
What I said, ha, ha, ha. And I said, I got to go on. I got this thing to do at like 6 p.m. in Nashville. And I drove off, and so that's how that kind of went. So I kind of think that kind of made me write this story.
Okay, so then he's working for Seafood Now, but he's got this side angle, like he's selling pot on the side. But you don't learn a lot of things with him. You don't learn until you're into the story. Like, I think it's like sort of toward the end of the story, we learn, oh yeah, when I had that OxyContin habit, and so I was really disoriented. And I think it was a cool effect because I had no idea what to make of this person. And then I just was curious about how you let all that information slip along the way. It felt like you're meeting somebody and you're like, oh, this person's a little bit off. And then it kept escalating as I read, like he is really off and he may not even know who he's talking to or what he's told her or.
Yeah. I don't know either. I think he's lonely, for one, and he's living in his parents' old house, which is kind of weird. Kelly, I just don't know how that came about.
Yeah, you know what I was going to say, like, so when you write a story, does it ever, like, I'm just curious about your process. When you write it, you first write about like some guy and he's hurt his hip and this woman comes along, and then does it come out, a little bit simplistic in the first draft, and then as you go back and do a couple other drafts, you add in all of this other information that complicates the story, or does it just all come to you at once?
Now, what do you mean by the word drafts?
Right. You just write one draft and send it out. Right?
Here's how I write things. True.
I mean, we all wish we didn't have to write many drafts, but apparently you don't.
Here's how I write. I write okay. Write a little bit, da. And then the next day, I go reread that. And I go, oh boy, my main character changed names. What an idiot am I? So I change that. And then the day 3, I go, I got to reread that. And then I say, come on. And then I change some stuff. So the whole time I'm writing, I'm rewriting.
Right.
So if it takes 10 days to write that particular story, I go, rewrite. I'm an idiot.
Right.
Now, when I get done, I send it off. A lot of, I know there are these people who say, oh, put it in a drawer for 6 months or whatever. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm not that patient. Get done with it. And I've rewritten it now 5-10 times. So I send it to magazines. Then, the editor will he or she will say good or bad or whatever. And so then I do either rewrite more or don't,
I was just going to say, at this point, you must have like some personal relationships with editors who are willing to look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. My old editor at Atlantic Monthly, his name is Mike Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
He died about half a year ago. And he would write, I'm using his voice right now, he would write, "You're an idiot. You don't know how to write a story."
He would?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. He was mean and so good. That's fine. One time I did we're at a book conference in Park City, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to do a reading. And I thought it'd be really funny for me to read some of his rejection letters there in Park City. And so I read, "You're an idiot. You fool." And he wrote, "I have your same letters to me." So anyway,
Where you answered in kind.
Yeah.
Well, he clearly didn't. I mean, he was talking to you, which many people never get that far.
I mean, golly, he took 4 or 5 short stories and monthly. Come on. So, and I believe in editors a ton. It's not like an editor wants you to do poorly. It's not like they want you to go, "Okay, we're going to put something out in our magazine that sucks." They want something good.
Right.
So, he and I, he moved to South Carolina. I lived in South Carolina. So I would see him and he would nail me. I mean, and just, "You're the worst writer in the world." And I go, "What the fuck, man?"
No, it's okay.
"You're the worst writer in the world, man."
That is so funny. Well, I mean, okay. I read that. We were going to use an Atlantic story and we can't on this. Well, we can, but like I wanted it to be accessible. So maybe if the Atlantic takes down their paywall, that's an idea.
I'm sorry
that would
about that.
No, that would be good though, wouldn't it? I just threw it out there as like a wish into the universe. Okay, wait, I don't want to get off the story, but then I want to ask you some bigger questions about short story writing. But okay, so they go on this crazy cross-country trek with he and his dad. And his dad is trying to see like how far he can get drunk or like marginally drunk.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such an interesting concept. Where did you come up with that?
Here's a funny story, Kelly. My father fell 45 feet into the hold of a ship back in 1963. Broke his hips, his back. He broke 57 bones. He became a morphine addict. Thanks for bringing this up. So then we moved from Southern California to South Carolina, where his father lived, and my grandfather. That was a weird time, and my grandfather owned a. I'm turning to Mitch McConnell. My grandfather owned.
It happens to me all the time. It's crazy.
My grandfather owned a company. My father then started a company that went against his company.
Oh my gosh! Like a competitor?
Yeah, competitor, but it had to put in my mother's name. And then some years went by, and my father and I drove around a lot. And he would say, "Will you drive me around?" I was not old enough to really drive my father around. But we did. What the hell? So that's a little bit of that is autobiographical.
And then you just sort of made it into he won. Well, in his own mind, he was going for the world record of almost drunk driving.
We drove. We didn't do that isosceles triangle around the world, but we could have.
Well, it was interesting because it was like a little bit of. He just seems like frozen in time. You know what I mean? And
the father.
No, the main character.
Amos.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Amos. How could I forget that? Because I have a question about that. See, I do forget things all the time. Yeah, it just seemed like he was frozen. His mom's gone. They still own this house. There's a lot in. I was just interviewing this guy named Chad B. Anderson who wrote this amazing story, The Kelly Street Disappearances, and that is coming out on the blog on the podcast tomorrow. But anyway, his was a lot about like race and class, and so we had some big discussions about area of the country that's like left behind, and this town just seems like it's been wiped out, and there's a lot of class stuff going on. And he's living in this house there were slaves in the house before, and then there was, let's see, I was just thinking about, I'm thinking about how you write about an area where you live where there's racist stuff going on, and you're doing it in a first person point of view, right? And I've done this myself in first person as a white person writing about racist people. And I always get scared, like they're going to think I'm racist because I'm writing about, and it's scary, honestly.
I'm very proud that, because I got all these buddies who are Southern writers, male Southern writers. Some of them are dead now, like Barry Hannon. I've never used a racist term in my stories, and I'm a Southern writer. Anything like that, give me a break. You don't fucking have to say that anymore. I mean, it's 2023.
Yeah,
you do not have to use that anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I didn't think you were. I guess it's just the legacy of racism. You can feel it in the background is more what I'm saying. Not that you said anything racist, but just like the house used to have slaves. And then, we lived in a 2-story house once owned by people who owned slaves down the road from another 2-story house wherein slaves tended the field. Then came cotton mills. Then came the downfall of cotton mills. Then came people like my daddy, Amos, wishing to make a mark on this world by setting unofficial, unprintable world records so that they, I figured out later, could feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And I was thinking a lot about the shame, maybe, of the legacy of racism.
Good golly. It's terrible. And it's the South, and I hate it.
Not to interject, but it's definitely up here too. I know the South is known for racism, but it's
KKK is everywhere. And what the fuck? Come on, man. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to worry. I don't care.
Come on. Right. Come on, America. That's what I say.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you write these characters, I mean, you did not use any racist stuff, but like you said, his dad was named after, I'm finding that page, Alvin Childress, a skilled thespian who played a character named Amos on the old Amos and Andy TV show. My grandparents on that side of the family weren't exactly free-spirited and open-minded. They named my father for a black man so that he, Amos Sr., could learn to use his fists when confronted by schoolyard bullies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and so it's true to hit the history of what happened in the country, that's the way people were. And I thought that was like a good way to, you can't like deny that.
I know.
I just was curious. In the next page, his father is like a gun control person, which doesn't fit the character, the stereotype.
Yeah.
So where'd you get that idea? Where he did the ice pick and
the one thing that I'm worried about is gun control in America.
Me too.
Try what I can to say, okay, give it a break. Let's give it a break.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard to write about. Politics anymore. But golly, come on, gun control.
I know. Yeah.
The one thing that I try to do is have some character go, hey, let's quit doing the guns.
Right. Yeah, I appreciated that because my son was at Michigan State this past year, and one of his classmates from grade school was killed. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, you think it can't come that close, but it's coming for everybody. I
Oh,
know
I'm
several
so sorry.
people. Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
yeah. Well, it's good that you write about it, I think. All right, so let's go back to the PT. She was a really interesting character, Andrea. So did not get what was going on with her at all in the beginning. And he has some interesting like descriptions of her, this person who's really strong, and he reminds her of the German beer girl, and and you kind of have an idea of where that's heading. And then she sort of flips the script.
Yeah, I kind of don't remember any of that except I think she turns out an arsonist, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think she burns down the tobacco
Yeah.
building museum.
Sorry about that.
Well, it was interesting because he reaches up and he pulls off her ponytail holder or whatever. And I was like, oh God, here we go, But then she burns down the tobacco place. So I was like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know where they came from. It's
Yeah.
kind of well, I got to do something. So I think she's a strong-willed character. Who knows? And you can't win. I mean, I cannot win if I just make her she's just a regular PT person. Okay, good. But then if she burns down something, golly.
Well, when you write these characters in a story, how often do they come back in another story for you?
Kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Now, I forget what that town was.
Poke or Poke.
I was writing a bunch of stories about Poke. I thought I'm gonna write a bunch of stories about a town called Poke. I got nothing else to do because I live in South Carolina. And that kind of died.
Why? Do you know why?
Yeah, who knows? I got bored. Got bored with my own voice.
Mm-hmm.
As far as what's her name, Andrea, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Andrea.
I probably was going to write a bunch of stories about her and got bored. And
so is that why you write more short stories than novels? Do you get like short stories long enough and you get bored?
I'm bored with my own voice. I'm an idiot, and
clearly not, though.
No, I get bored. I go done.
But I have to say, like, I feel that way, and a lot of other writers feel that way, and then we just like stop writing, and nothing else comes out. But you clearly you can overcome it. So I guess, how do you overcome that and keep writing? Because I definitely feel that way.
Well, I've done okay with like books called like Callistown, and they all took place in a town called Callistown.
Yeah.
Half Mammals of Dixie, they all took place in 45 South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, I'm old, I get bored, and I'm done.
But you just said you still write 25 a year, which is a lot. Do you just force yourself to sit down and start a new one?
Yeah, kind of. I live in South Carolina. Come on, I'm bored. I'm just going do-de do-de do 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 do. Write some stuff. And
is there anything about this story you thought that I was going to ask you that I haven't asked you?
Yeah.
No. No. Okay. We had to use this one because it's accessible, but I'm going to put a link to the other Atlantic story that you mentioned. If someone were to like pick one of your 8 collections, which is your personal favorite? Do you have one that they might read first?
Yeah. I got a good story about that.
Okay.
Back in about 1999, I started reading a guy named Lewis Norton and a guy named Dale Ray Phillips. And I wrote a story called Show and Tell. And I went, show and tell isn't that bad of a story. And I sent it off to Atlantic Monthly, and they took it. And I thought it's kind of a dad and lad story. And I went, this one's okay. This one's okay. I don't like any of my stories. I mean, zero.
Really?
But I like that one okay. So I went, all right, that's an okay story. So the story is Show and Tell in Atlantic Monthly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was fun for me. I learned.
Are you sure,
something.
Kelly? You're being no. You don't
It was really fun. It was really fun for me. I
You're
promise.
making shit up.
I am not. You made me want a cigarette. That's for sure. I hope everybody reads all your stories. I'm going to put the link to all the collections. You may have a gazillion new readers. Who knows?
It'll put my Amazon down to like 4 million.
Yeah, I'll be way below that though. All right. Okay, bye. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show and were able to add some creative tools to your toolbox. On November 1st, Bonnie Jo Campbell visits to discuss her story, Bore Taint. For more information on George Singleton, please visit kellyforden.com. All donations are greatly appreciated as they keep our production quality high. To donate, please visit kellyforden.com. Thanks so much to Elliot Bancel for his tremendous audio engineering finesse. Stay tuned. We'll see you next month.